Okay, hello YouTube, Google Plus, mixed up, fucked up, mashed up mess. This is the Canadian Greek coming at you with ISON update number 12. There's been some developments. Of course, my updates are now more frequent because the information keeps coming out and it keeps changing on a daily basis. So let's get to it. Let's start with Bruce Gary's website. Yesterday, or on ISON update number 11. This is ISON on November 12. I predicted that ISON would brighten again due to another X-class flare pointed directly at ISON, and I said it would go up to a 3.5 to 4. And guess what? Total BMAG is now at 3.68. Boy, I just never get tired of being right. Of course, I predicted this because of the X-class flare that was fired directly at ISON, and I predicted a brightening, and I was right. Another flare, or another coronal mass ejection, was fired again today. That would be the fourth in as many days. This one is not directly at ISON. This one is mostly headed to in front of Mercury. This is a situation in the sky right now. This is Enki, ISON, and Mercury. So this flare is coming, or this coronal mass ejection is coming here. There's going to be a glancing blow on the comets themselves, but most of it is going in front of Mercury. So it's just going to be a glancing blow for the comets. Okay, but and again. I was right as to the magnitude increase, which has apparently taken place at a 3.68. What did I say? If you guys look at my ISON update 11 and 10, I predicted this, and score another one for the electric comet model, and score another thumbs down for the dirty snowball bullshit theory. Okay. There's more. Let's have a look at this comets page. Because just get, the story just keeps getting, more and more ridiculous from some aspects, or from some observers and from some researchers. Okay. There's a new press release from the Max Planck Institute for Solar System Research, MPS, suggesting that fragments may have detached from comet ISON, and as a consequence, the comet is exhibiting wings. Really. Here is the press release. It's right here. If you guys, I don't know if I'm going to post links for this. If you guys are interested, you can just freeze this and just get the links. The researchers' analysis show two striking features within the comet's atmosphere that protrude from the nucleus in a wing-like fashion. While these so-called coma wings were still rather faint on November the 14th. If you remember, that's when the initial outburst happened, when it got hit with the first X flare, or coronal mass ejection, the first XCME. They dominate the images taken 2 days later. Dr. Herman Bonhart and the MPS Caitlin Lindau, Germany, explains. Okay. And then we have pictures of some of these you've already seen, by the way. This is from Bruce Gary's website, and I think there's one other one here. I don't remember which one. Anyways, but some of these images you guys have already seen. Let's continue on down here. An immediate conclusion, never mind that. And you know what happens when the sun does not set. Okay, well, I guess I have to read this. An immediate conclusion from the last three images is that once again the nucleus does not seem to be rotating. Really, you're an idiot. Since four jets are located in approximately the same position angle during an interval of 2 days. If the comet is not rotating, one side of the nucleus is illuminated continuously, which means you're an idiot, because that's not happening. And I'll explain why. And you know what happens when the sun does not set? Temperatures go up rapidly, and the place becomes hot. Using our temperature of a comet's formula, we find that ISON is now experiencing a surface temperature of 512 degrees Kelvin, 240 degrees Celsius, or 464 degrees Fahrenheit. Rather hot, I would say. Yeah, so would I, but you're an idiot. I would like to put forward a possible explanation for the wings that differs from the ones given above. At the current distance of the comet, 0.46 AU from the Sun, between the orbits of Venus and Mercury, the solar radiation is very intense and is being felt very strongly. In the day side of the nucleus, the radiation is increasing as the inverse square distance to the Sun very rapidly and must be digging a large crater on the comet's surface. Material is spouting out of the surface like a geyser in a rotationally symmetric fountain, turning around immediately due to the solar radiation pressure or the solar wind. If you see this fountain from the side, it looks like two wings. See the same phenomena in water fountain on Earth. In this case, water turns down due to gravity. Okay. Okay, that's what these people have to say. I say they are absolutely they're wrong in every sense of the word, and I will now explain why. Let's begin with what's really happening and what I really believe. Okay, I don't believe that ISON is 3 or 5 kilometers in diameter. Okay, that's just for starters. Okay, so let's start with their assumption that the nucleus does not seem to be rotating. Really. If you remember the last couple of updates, I've given you some radiation pressure speeds or some solar wind speeds and some coronal mass ejection speeds. Okay, when a CME is moving at 1,000 kilometers per second, okay, or more, and the comet itself is moving at 56 kilometers per second towards the Sun, you put those together, and a certain amount of force is being created there. Okay, plus with all the jets and in its atmosphere, because basically what this is an atmosphere that it's creating for itself. We're talking about wind speeds in there that are just absolutely phenomenal. If you think a tornado moving at 500 miles an hour winds, if you think that's something, how about 500 miles per second winds? What do you think that would do? Do you really think this thing is not rotating, that the solar radiation pressure is not making this thing spin? Just a week ago or so, we just saw an asteroid which supposedly got spun by radiation pressure, and that's out at the orbit of Mars, just a little farther than Mars, and the radiation pressure or the solar wind spun the asteroid supposedly with such speed that it started to spin off dust. Now, if radiation pressure or solar wind can do that at that distance, what about at a distance far closer to the Sun? And these guys are saying that this thing is not spinning or rotating. I mean, how stupid can you get? Now, I don't believe that this thing is 3 miles or 5 kilometers in diameter. I've been saying that since day one, going all the way back to June. Okay, if you guys haven't seen my alert C2012S1 ISON, not what NASA says. If you guys haven't seen that series, it's a 5-part series. Check it out. But I think this thing is spherical in shape. Okay, it may not be a perfect sphere, but it's spherical. Okay, it has to have a symmetrical shape because now when this thing is spinning, okay, whatever side is facing the Sun, okay, doesn't matter what side is facing the Sun, whatever side is facing the Sun, that is the side that becomes energetic, okay, and starts putting out jets, okay, and those jets, by the way, are not caused by frozen gases that are on it itself. Okay, if you guys want to check out the electric comet model or the electric comet theory, I will post a link for that for you guys to go and have a look at again if you guys haven't seen it. But I will not cover all that data here because it is just way too much to go through, and I'm really pressed for time. But anyways, whatever side happens to be facing the Sun, doesn't matter if this thing is tumbling and rotating and doing its thing, which it must be. Okay, whatever side is facing the sun is the side that becomes energetic and is the side that starts to put out the gases. Now, if this thing is spherical in shape, it doesn't matter what side is facing the sun. It doesn't matter if it's spinning. Whatever side is facing the sun is what is doing this, is what's putting out this reaction. Now, when this thing was out at the orbit of Mars, okay, of course the radiation pressure, the effect of the sun on this thing was decreased due to its distance from the sun, okay, and it was putting out less energy, okay. Now, the closer it gets to the sun, and especially after being hit by 4 coronal mass ejections, this thing, of course, has become more energized. Now, why the wings that they so mention here? Why is it all of a sudden developed wings? Well, here's why. It's just actually, and it's not even a very complicated theory. I learned this in grade 8 geography. Why do we have poles here on Earth? Why do we have North Pole and South Pole? Why is it cold at the poles and hot at the equator? Well, let's have a look at that. Okay, the sun is so far away it practically shines equally at the equator and the poles. But why is the equator very hot and the poles very cold? There are several factors that influence the amount of sunshine received at various places on Earth. The major factor is that while the sun is overhead at the equator, it is at a rather slant angle at the poles. This effect can be demonstrated using a torch, which can be taken as the sun. See Figure 1. Basically, what it's saying here, and which is correct by the way, is while the sun's rays are more concentrated at the equator, they are more spread out the further you get out to the poles. Even though it's the same amount of rays, okay. If you even take one step higher up, even though it's the same concentration of rays, they are spread out over a greater distance, okay, as you get to the poles as opposed to the equator. The same thing, and I believe that ISON is to be spherical, okay. The same thing applies for ISON. When it was out at the orbit of Mars, and these rays did not have a very much effect on the edges of ISON, okay, because they were spread out, okay. The same effect that applies for us and our equator and poles applies for ISON, okay. So now that it's come closer to the sun, of course, now it is much closer to Earth's orbit. It is almost approaching the orbit of Mercury, which means that now even the poles are beginning to heat up, which means it's not just putting out, and if you guys remember what was happening with Comet ISON and the whole forward-facing jet crap, okay, well, of course it has a forward-facing jet because if it's spherical, okay, and only this part is really heating up, okay, it doesn't matter if this thing is rotating, tumbling, doing its thing, because I believe it's spherical, and no matter what this thing is doing, only the forward-facing side, and at a distance of to a U or close to Mars, it was only a very small portion of it was being heated, which is why they kept saying forward-facing jets, blah, 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 which was all incorrect. Okay, and I said that from the start, and I was right. Because only a small portion is being heated enough, or being acted on enough, it only appeared to have forward-facing jets, or jets facing in the forward direction, but they weren't consistently, 100% perfectly forward. It was going off to the sides and blah, 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 because that's just the way it was being heated. Okay, now as it's gotten closer, of course, now even the sides are becoming energetic, okay, which is putting out what they're calling wings and all this other crap about it, anyways. These guys, I don't know where these guys learned physics or where they learned anything about anything, but I think they're freaking idiots. Now, as far as the size of ISON, that is also a great concern. In order for ISON to have a spherical shape, it would have to achieve hydrostatic equilibrium, which means it has to have a certain mass. Okay, but apparently I'm out of time, so this will be a 2-part update. This will be 12A and there will be a 12B. See you guys at 12B.